All right, tell me if you've heard this one before. Samsung is about to release a folding device that doesn't have one hinge, but instead has two. Call it a trifold, call it a double fold, however you want to phrase it. We've heard this rumor before. We've actually heard that it was coming imminently like 2 years ago. It's making the rounds again. I was hesitant to talk about it, but there are some interesting details. So we're going to talk about it. So this report most recently comes from ET News, which you can see is being translated from Korean to English. And I'm just going to kind of paraphrase some stuff. I've organized some things here in this series of posts on Threads. I will put a link to their article in the description down below. But basically, guys, here's what's being said. Samsung is working on a 9 to 10 inch screened double folding device. This would be in line with what we have seen from devices like the Huawei Mate XT Ultimate. I believe this device was 10.2 inches, so potentially right there with it. And of course, a device like that would be quite a bit bigger than the current model Z Fold 6, something like 2 inches bigger to be exact. Now, it's not that that in and of itself is not an interesting enough concept. It's just that it's been said before. Maybe you remember this all the way back in 2023, for instance. It's been said before. So what is the new interesting bit about this? Well, ET News is reporting that rather than doing what Huawei is doing with a screen that folds one way and then folds back the other way, Samsung is apparently going with what they're calling an infolding design. Now, this video here you're seeing is pulled from Samsung Display, where they have shown off this exact style of device in the past. A device that folds in and then folds in again on top of itself. Now, there are some obvious advantages to going this way. Primarily, that screen is going to be protected. If you go with an accordion style, which this is also Samsung Display, they've shown that they have the ability to do this as well, you do always end up with a little bit of a folding, more fragile screen exposed to the world around you. There are some advantages to the accordion style, though. As you can see here, there are going to be different form factors that are going to be usable. With the Huawei Mate XT Ultimate, that is a mouthful, you have the ability to open it once and have a normal folding phone style device, and then you can open it up again to then get the full-sized device. So it gives you almost 3 devices in one at the cost of having this flexible screen be exposed all the time. Samsung, according to this report, is going the other way, saying that users are going to want to have their screen protected all the time and not worrying about having these other sort of form factors built in. Now, obviously, there is an elephant in the room when we're talking about a form factor like this double infolding form factor, and you can see it right here. Maybe you can see the lack of it right here. We don't have a cover display on these devices. Now, keep in mind, these are simply prototypes from Samsung Display. This does not necessarily represent what a final product from Samsung proper is going to look like. It may end up being much, much thinner than this. I would imagine that it almost certainly will be much, much thinner than this. And unless they are okay with this device basically being a replacement for a tablet, if it's meant to be a phone, it's going to have some sort of cover display for this thing to be usable for the vast majority of people. Because otherwise, what are you supposed to do? Open the thing up part of the way and use that as your quote-unquote cover display? That's your phone. That's a two-handed device that is not going to be very comfortable. So again, there's going to have to be some sort of a cover display on an infolding device like this. Now, I've talked about this several times already, so I'm not going to just beat this dead horse. But we do know that at one point, Samsung did have something like 80% of the folding phone market share. And as more and more competition has come out, competition from Huawei, from Motorola, from Honor, Xiaomi, Oppo, which is kind of like OnePlus, or Vivo, which is also kind of similar there as well, their market share has dropped to something like 50%. So only half of people who have a folding phone have a Samsung folding phone right now. Competition has gotten extraordinarily stiff. There's an image of one such extremely good competitive folding phone. So obviously, Samsung does need to do something to push things forward. We do know that the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold Special Edition seems to be selling relatively well, as they are releasing it in South Korea in small numbers, and those are selling out. The device does seem relatively impressive. A few people have gotten their hands on it now, and it does look really, really good. But that doesn't really do a whole lot for most other regions, because that device is only available in South Korea and at some point maybe already in China. To me, this just does not make sense as the direction to be going. What makes sense to me is to take your Z Fold 7 and actually truly try to compete with these other foldable devices. You have to improve that camera hardware. Basically, take the special edition and make that the Z Fold 7. It's bigger, it's got a wider cover display, has better camera hardware. There's a lot to like about that device. But then also, rather than making a second device that's even more expensive and even more premium, why not make that cheaper device? Why not make that A series Z Fold that tries to get as close to $1,000 or so as humanly possible? That seems like the obvious strategy. Nonetheless, this is the rumor, and I want you to keep that very much in mind. It is a rumor. Take this with a gigantic pinch of salt, but it's still fun to talk about, not just because it would be cool to see them do this sort of thing, but I also want to know what you guys think about them going with this quote-unquote infolding design as opposed to the accordion style device. I want to hear from you. What do you think about this? Do you think that they would be hypothetically making the right call by going in that direction? Let me know what you think about that in the comments down below. Let me know what you think about the strategy in general of introducing an even more expensive device rather than pursuing the cheaper device territory that, devices like, there it is, my OnePlus Open, routinely, in that $1,300 range you can buy this thing for, and it has phenomenal hardware. There's reasons why they're able to do this. It's very complicated. Samsung could at least try to compete in some way by having a device in that price range. That makes sense to me. Maybe it makes sense to you. Let me know in the comments down below, guys. I'll see you on the next one. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.